What if I told you that just 2 Airbnbs could replace your 9 to 5 income? Sounds insane, right? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down whether financial freedom is actually possible with only 2 Airbnb properties. And I'll show you the numbers from both the rent-to-rent strategy and Airbnb management, so you can actually see what is realistic. I've built my Airbnb business to over £1 million a year and also have over 50 plus properties. We've worked with a number of different clients across numerous different models, so I know what works and what doesn't. Before we break down whether Airbnb can actually give you financial freedom, we need to kind of set the scene first. Because if we don't put the numbers into context, it's very easy to lose perspective on what freedom actually means. So let's start with the average salary in the UK. The average salary in the UK is around £33,000 a year. After tax, national insurance contributions, that leaves you roughly with a take-home pay of £2,200 a month. So that's what most people are living on in the UK right now. Now, if you think about what that £2,200 a month has to cover, it's rent or mortgage, council tax, energy bills, travel, food, some savings, some investments. In reality, for a lot of people, that money just doesn't stretch far enough at the moment. And with the cost of living constantly increasing, climbing faster than wages all the time, it feels like you're working harder every single year, not getting pay rises and standing still financially. And this is why there has become so much frustration around the 9 to 5 trap. It looks so safe from the outside, a stable paycheck, benefits, maybe a pension, but the truth is that most people are living month to month with no savings. So there's not much room for freedom or choice or even breathing space. Now, hold that £2,200 figure in mind, because when we talk about 2 Airbnbs, that's the benchmark that we're going to set. If you have 2 properties that can make you consistently £2,200 a month profit, that's equivalent of replacing the average salary in the UK. Anything above that and you're effectively earning more than most people would in a standard full-time job. This is why Airbnb feels so exciting to so many people. The idea of just having 2 Airbnbs or 2 properties, not 20, not 50, just 2, could bring you the same amount of money working a 40-hour work week for 4 weeks straight for a whole month. This completely shifts about how we think about financial freedom. But as we'll see, the path to that number looks very, very different whether you go down the rent-to-rent route or you use the management model. Let's first talk about rent-to-rent, because this is where most people get excited about the idea of financial freedom with just 2 properties, they're Airbnbs. On paper, the idea is simple. You take 2 properties and put them on Airbnb. You estimate, because you are paying around £1,600 in rent and bills for each of them, you make the assumption that you will probably get £2,800 a month in your pocket and then net the difference. That really isn't that bad, considering your 9 to 5 probably gives you way more stress and a lot more work. Here's the thing, you might be thinking these are fancy Airbnbs, which are based in a really, really good location. You also might be thinking that I'm just making these numbers up out of thin air. Well, simply, I'm not. These are my actual numbers on some of our actual properties. Here are my Airbnbs and let me show you. So here is one Airbnb, for example, in Leeds. This property, we have a rent of about £1,400. Our rent and bills come out to about £1,800 a month. And we make about £3,000 to £3,500 a month on this property, depending on the time of the year. And look, to do that, I'm literally going to prove it to you and show you. So these are the bookings on the property for the last month in September 2025. Here you can see some of the bookings of how much we've made. £500, with another £1,000, with another £350, with another £650 there, plus another £1,000 here. So that would be, let's say, £1,250 for this booking, then another £500 there, so that's £1,750, then £2,750, £3,000, £3,670. Now, obviously I've done a bit of an estimate here, but I'm just showing you. So as you can see here, I'll show you another example in this block of flats, because we actually got 5 of these flats in the same building. But here, £400, then £1,000. So we're at £1,500 there, if you add those 2 together. Then we've got £1,435. So that would put us at £1,900 for the month. Then another £450, £2,300. Then here, £800 puts us about £3,100 plus a couple nights in this booking here. So let's just say it was £200 or £300 here. That puts us at about 3.5. Then you see here, this property booked for 37 nights, £3,780. You can kind of see the numbers that we're playing with here, but these are the costs for this property and the exact rent and how much we're making every single month on this one alone. Now that's just an example, but I have got over 50 more properties that I can show you all the back end numbers to. If you just go through any of our Airbnb listings here, for some reason it's taking really long to load. Let me do that and just break down another example here. So from one of our flats here, this is another 2-bedroom flat that we have in Harrogate. And our rent on these properties, as you can see, 55 reviews, 4.93. Not bad in terms of review rating, but we pay on these properties about £1,350, £1,400 a month, plus kind of rent and bills. It goes up to about similar price, around 1,700-ish, 16, anywhere between 1,600 to 1,800. But the idea is that I can then just show you again the kind of incomes that we're dealing with. So, for example, here, 18 nights, £1,800. Then another 10 nights, £1,000. Here we brought in £800. Here we brought in 300, another 250, 475, 600, 300, 500. Then another one here for 30 nights, £3,080. Another 15 nights for £1,500. Another 4 nights. You get the message, you get the idea, and these bookings go on and on and on. And you can see here all of our occupancy and how well our properties perform. And that's why Airbnb is actually really exciting. These Airbnbs aren't anything special. They're just ordinary 2-bed flats. The staging of the property is really important to make it look really good and give it that luxury feel. It does go a long way, but I'm talking a long way like quitting your 9-to-5 job once you've actually secured 2 of these properties. And suddenly you will realize that actually you've done most of the legwork just by getting 2 properties alone. Decorating isn't actually the hard part. Think of it like a cake, for example. You put a bunch of sprinkles on it, you throw everything on it, right? But what actually makes it taste good, it's the baseline ingredients. All the sugar, all the good stuff inside. And in that case, if you have 2 or more bedrooms, you're in a good location, you have super fast Wi-Fi and you have good response rates, your base ingredients of the cake, that's what really makes the ingredients of your listing and makes you the money. Now I just want you to think about this. All the stress of your job that it causes, your commute, waking up at 6:30 in the morning, getting the train to work, coming back home 12 hours later, and you compare that to just running 2 Airbnbs, making the same income on your 9-to-5, what makes more sense to you and will make you less stressed? I've done both, and I can tell you for a fact, when you're in the position and you're building someone else's wealth, that's the part that sucks. Building your own wealth is the part that's enjoyable. Let's talk about the other option, which is Airbnb management. So instead of renting the property directly from the landlord, you're actually putting the property on Airbnb on their behalf. On the surface, it sounds like the easier path. You don't pay rent, you don't pay bills, you don't really carry any risk. You are simply just managing the property for a landlord. Now, that's basically with 0 costs, which does mean higher profit margins, and yes, that does make it quite appealing. Just because the profit margins are better, does it mean the actual number that you take home is better than rent to rent? Let's break that down for you. Now, I'm gonna break down to you a property which, if you had 2 of these, you would be able to be financially free off just 2 management properties. This is a property that we have in central London on Tottenham Court Road. It's obviously really nice property, but if we take a look at example, look at our calendar for October, it's already pretty booked. But let's just pick the weekend in October. We are charging £1,800 for 2 nights. For example, if we whip out the calculator and do £1,800 times 15%, which is our management fee, we get paid for 2 nights, £280. Now, let's just say, on average, this property were to make, roughly, we charge around £600 a night. You can just have a look here, but roughly we aim to charge around £600 per night. If this property is rented out for £600 a night, times that by 25 nights, that would be £15,000 generated per month. As a management company, if we were to take that £15,000 and we take our 15% on that, we would make £2,250 per month just as a management fee. So 1 property, in this case, on a management property would make you financially free. 2, you're laughing. Now, obviously, this is a really high spec example. I can show you another example where the management fee is slightly less. The point being is these properties are out there. You just need to pick the right ones. So if I show you this one, for example, this house here, slightly different, not as high spec, but we charge anywhere from kind of 180 to £200 a month, I think. £200 a month, £200 a night. So let's say here, so it's £250 for 4 nights, roughly. Again, if you do the same calculation, say it's booked at £250 for about 25 nights a month, that's 6,250. So nowhere near as much in terms of like how much we're talking about this London one. But still, if you charge 15% on that, that's £937. Times that by 2 properties, that's 1,875. Now the kicker is that you can make money on direct booking fees, you can make money on damage waivers, you can make money on upsells to guests. Suddenly, you've still then made your 2.2k a month and replaced your income. And this property is like, you know, a bog standard house that is really nothing special. And we still make a really good management fee off it. And that's where I'm trying to show you is if you pick the right properties for Airbnb management, you can be financially free off too. And we're going to break it down in a little bit more detail how you can actually do that. As I've showed you here, there's certain things that we do to maximize our revenue with our management properties. For example, we charge an onboarding fee to every single client, which is around £500 to £600, just to onboard the property, get it fully listed, get it fully set up. But that's £500 of profit into our account instantly just for bringing the listing on. Then what we also do is we have upsells to guests, which are early check-in and late check-out, which make us more money as well. We also sell damage waivers to guests. What that essentially does is we insure it. So we cover if there has been any damage up to £300, but they pay a £60 non-refundable fee. Now, if you get 5 of those a month, that is £300 a month. There we go. And now I'm going to show you how much we've done in damage waivers this month, just to show you. And you're probably going to be shocked because you're probably going to realize that we make more money off damage waivers every single month than most people make in a year. So what I'm going to show you is the last 30 days of Stripe data in terms of transactions for damage waivers. So, on average, we charge £60 per damage waiver. In the last 30 days, we have 94 results. If we do 94 times £60, that is £5,640 in damage waivers. Let's say we have 40 properties, 50 divided by that, you're averaging about £100 per property in terms of damage waivers per month. Some more, some less. We've made £5,640 of damage waivers. You times that by 12, that's £67,000 a year, which is basically pure profit off damage waivers. That's more money than most people make in an entire year, just of something which is basically completely passive for us. That's how you make some real money in this Airbnb management game. But now let's talk about the actual properties and their fees. If you use a property that's going to make £2,600 a month and you're charging 15%, you aren't going to get much of a return. If you have 2 of those, that's maybe £800–900 a month. That's not great. That's not what we're looking for. What we want to do is target more expensive properties. That's what we are doing by increasing our presence in London and high-end expensive areas to charge really good management fees. Expensive properties though don't just mean London. They mean 3, 4, 5 bed flats, houses, properties in Leeds, York, Manchester, maybe the Lake District, Cotswolds, whatever. You aren't constrained to the overly inflated prices of London. It's just targeting the right properties. Penthouses, luxury apartments, nice spec apartments, big properties, unique, whatever it is. That's a really good way to make money. But this is where the question of can you become financially free off 2 Airbnb management properties doesn't entirely make sense. It's more nuanced. For management, no one gets 2 properties and just stops there. There's very little costs involved, there's no upfront costs, and that's the reason management businesses scale. Each property gained, there is basically barely any additional costs. It's the opposite of rent to rent, where the average cost to set up a property is around 3 to 5K. What I'm trying to say is that once you've started this business, your option is to scale without any extra costs. And are you going to turn that down and stop at just 2 Airbnbs? No. This is why Airbnb management is so good, because cost and stress don't really increase as you take on more properties. So to answer the actual question, can you be financially free off 2 Airbnb management properties? Yes, absolutely. We've shown you examples where you can do it. Now, will that be the case for everyone depending on the properties you take on? Maybe, maybe not. But if you take on enough properties, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, you can become financially free very quickly without having to put lots of money up front. Obviously, once you get to the level where you have 100 properties, it's a bit different. But what I'm getting at here is that there are systems and softwares in place that are designed to help you manage multiple Airbnbs. I think the common misconception is that having 10 or more management properties is really stressful, but realistically it isn't. When you have automated pricing, automated cleaner scheduling, self-check-in, virtual assistants to talk to guests, the whole process becomes really easy and pretty much detached from you. And when we go back and look at a 9 to 5 and the stress that that causes, I don't think you can weigh it up against Airbnb management. Airbnb management doesn't really cause that much stress, and most of the workload can be outsourced to other people. Don't worry, I am practicing what I'm actually preaching here. I'm focused on growing my management business even more because it's such a scalable model. But not only am I doing it, but so are my mentees inside the Airbnb Mastery community. Like Sophie, for example, now, who's got 4 properties under her belt, Finton, who's got an 8-bed hotel in Blackpool and a couple rent-to-rents in his portfolio. And the best bit is they are solely focused on their business, and they get so much joy and motivation from owning their own business and not having to work for someone else. To be completely honest, can you be financially free with 2 rent-to-rents? Yes. Can you be financially free with 2 Airbnb management properties? With the right properties? Yes. These are the questions I get asked all the time about Airbnb. And obviously by having over 50 properties in my portfolio, I have been through it all. So if you have any questions about Airbnb, drop a comment below, but also remember to like and subscribe. And if you're interested in getting started in the Airbnb game, make sure to watch the next video where I'll break down exactly how I would start my Airbnb business.